Okay, Genesis chapter 27. Now I just finished Genesis chapter 26. I don't know if you just did, but I'm going to refresh your memory because at the end of Genesis chapter 26, it changes thoughts and all of a sudden switches to a discussion about Esau's wives. And I want this to be fresh in your memory. So, the end of chapter 26, verse 34 says, When Esau was 40 years old, he married Judith, daughter of Beri the Hittite, and also Basemath, daughter of Elon the Hittite. They were a source of grief to Isaac and Rebekah. Knowing women, I bet you they were more of a source of grief to Rebekah than to Isaac. For Isaac, he might have let it roll off of him, or maybe it was a source of grief to him because it was a source of grief to his wife, who always talked about it. Maybe it was a source of grief directly to him. I'm just saying, knowing women, we're talking about two women that Esau married. So he had two wives, and we know that his parents were not real happy about them. Isaac and Rebekah said that they were a grief. These women were a grief to them. Okay, chapter 27. When Isaac was old, and his eyes were so weak that he could no longer see, he called for Esau, his older son, and said to him, My son. Here I am, he answered. Isaac said, I am now an old man and don't know the day of my death. Now then, get your weapons, your quiver and bow, and go out to the open country to hunt some wild game for me. Prepare me the kind of tasty food I like, and bring it to me to eat so that I may give you my blessing before I die. So Isaac's thinking he's going to die any time now. He knows he's old. He doesn't know when his time's going to come, but he's doing the custom, or I believe it to be the custom, and he's calling for his firstborn son to come. And he needs to bless his firstborn son before he dies. And so he wants to do it now, before it's too late. But before he blesses his son, he's going to get something out of this. He asks his son to go out like he usually does with his quiver and bow. So we know that Esau is a hunter. Esau's his firstborn. Esau's a hunter. He's telling him, go out and hunt some wild game for me. Now he says wild game, not something that's in their flock. And cook it up the way I like it, and bring it to me, and then I'll bless you. Why wouldn't Esau do that? Of course he would. Okay, and he says to do this before he dies. Now we're gonna have to flash back here. Let's flash back to Genesis chapter 25, when Jacob and Esau were in Rebekah's stomach and they were fighting, and God said there's two nations in there, and the older will serve the younger. Okay. That was said in chapter 25, in verse 23. The Lord said to her, Two nations are in your womb, and two peoples from within you will be separated. One people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger. So Esau will serve Jacob. Before that chapter is over, Esau sells his birthright to Jacob. Esau comes in absolutely famished. It says in that chapter, in verse 30, he said to Jacob, Quick, let me have some of that red stew. I'm famished. And Jacob says in verse 31, First, sell me your birthright. And he does. Verse 34, Then Jacob gave Esau some bread and some lentil stew. He ate and drank, and then got up and left. So Esau despised his birthright. So Esau sold his birthright, which was the firstborn son, to Jacob. So it's as if Jacob was the firstborn son. We don't know who else was present. If anybody was present, this may have just been between Jacob and Esau, but God was present. God knew what was going on. So the blessing has to go, the firstborn blessing has to go to Jacob according to the agreement Esau and Jacob had. Esau should have right then and there said to his dad, I don't get the firstborn blessing. I sold my right. I sold it to Jacob. You need to get him to do this for you, to feed you or whatever. I'm out of this. Okay, anyway, but he doesn't say that. So verse 5. Now Rebekah was listening as Isaac spoke to his son Esau. When Esau left for the open country to hunt game and bring it back, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, Look, I overheard your father say to your brother Esau, Bring me some game and prepare me some tasty food to eat, so that I may give you my blessing in the presence of the Lord before I die. Now, my son, listen carefully and do what I tell you. Verse 9. Go out to the flock and bring me 2 choice young goats. Now, this would not be wild game. Okay? She's saying, go out to the flock and bring me 2 choice young goats. so I can prepare some tasty food for your father, just the way he likes it. Then take it to your father to eat, so that he may give you his blessing before he dies." So I don't know what Rebecca knows. Maybe Jacob at some point shared it with Rebecca, his mom, saying this is what happened. Maybe Esau at some point said, "Can you believe what Jacob made me do?" or whatever. Maybe Rebecca's not aware of this agreement, but we know that Jacob was favored by his mom, and Esau was favored by his dad. Okay, and we know that. Where do they tell us that? At some point we are told that. I just don't remember what point we're told that. It's kind of sad, but that's the way it was. All right. So, maybe we're told that in this chapter. This is something I know. Okay. Verse 11. Jacob said to Rebekah, his mother, "But my brother Esau is a hairy man, and I'm a man with smooth skin. What if my father touches me? I would appear to be tricking him and would bring down a curse on myself rather than a blessing." Okay, so there's a lot of information right here in this little section here. Jacob said to Rebekah, his mother, "But my brother Esau is a hairy man, and I am a man with smooth skin. What if my father touches me?" So his father obviously can't see very well at all, because Isaac's not concerned at all about appearing before his dad, and his dad saying, "You're Isaac, not Esau." He's only concerned if his dad actually touches him. So he's not even concerned with the voice difference. So his father must not have the best hearing, or it just doesn't occur to him. But he's not at all concerned about the vision. So Isaac must be having a vision problem. Okay? What if my father touches me? I would appear to be tricking him and would bring down a curse on myself rather than a blessing. This is a very strong statement, because it shows that Jacob very much believes in blessings and curses, from at least from the father. So he's now concerned, like, hey, I would do this and get the blessing, but if this backfires, I'm going to get a curse, and he's scared about that. Okay, so he's obviously taking this very seriously. Verse 13, his mother said to him, "My son, let the curse fall on me. Just do what I say. Go and get them for me." So this must be something that they also believed, that the curse could be passed instead. So if his father were to curse Jacob, Rebecca's already saying, that curse will fall on me, not you. I accept it. Okay? So, actually that's where it starts. Verse 14. So he went and got them and brought them to his mother, the two goats, choice goats from the flock. And she prepared some tasty food, just the way his father liked it. Then Rebecca took the best. Now notice, let me get back to this. Isaac asked Esau to make him the meal. Now we have not Jacob making the meal, but his mom doing all the work. So not only was Jacob not a hunter, but apparently Jacob wasn't much of a cook. Maybe he was. We know he had made lentil stew before, or some kind of soup before. But for this meal, this meat, Rebecca's making it. Maybe Jacob wasn't too good at cooking meat, that his father would ask Esau to cook meat. Esau must have been very good at it. And then Rebecca didn't say, "Hey, Jacob, you need to cook the meat." She's like, "Oh, I'll do it, because I know how he likes it." Okay, so verse 14, so he went and got them and brought them to his mother, and she prepared some tasty food just the way his father liked it. Then Rebecca took the best clothes of Esau, her older son, which she had in the house, and put them on her younger son, Jacob. She also covered his hands and the smooth part of his neck with goat skin. Then she handed to her son Jacob the tasty food and the bread she had made. Wow, so she's putting him in his clothes, in Esau's clothes. So Jacob's now being dressed in Esau's clothes, and the part of his skin that's uncovered, his arms and his neck, she's now putting goat skin on it. Goat skin. I've pet goats before. They're not like a furry cat, but I mean, their hair. It is hair. So she's doing this so that Jacob, if he touches Jacob, he'll think Jacob's Esau. Esau must have really been a hairy man. I mean, really hairy. I've seen pictures of really, really hairy guys before, and Esau must have been leaning that way or been that way. Okay, so verse 18, he went to his father and said, "My father." "Yes, my son," he answered. "Who is it?" Verse 19, Jacob said to his father, "I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Please sit up and eat some of my game, so that you may give me your blessing." So Jacob's lying to his father, says, "I am Esau, your firstborn." Well, he now has the birthright of firstborn, but not necessarily the name of Esau. I wouldn't think that would have been part of the agreement. And so he tells his dad to sit up. "I have some of my game." Well, it's not wild game. We know it's flocks from their, two goats from their flock. Verse 20, Isaac asked his son, "How did you find it so quickly, my son?" And keep in mind, this would have had to have been quick. They would have had to have done this before Esau was able to get the wild game and cook it and bring it to his dad. They must have been rushing. And Isaac must have been aware that they rushed, that this was fast. "The Lord your God gave me success," he replied. Verse 21, then Isaac said to Jacob, of course he thinks he's saying this to Esau, "Come near so I can touch you, my son, to know whether you really are my son Esau or not." So he's either suspicious or he just wants to make extra sure because he truly believes in this blessing thing too. If he didn't, he wouldn't be doing the blessing on the firstborn. Verse 22, Jacob went close to his father Isaac, who touched him and said, "The voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau." Ooh. That must have scared Jacob a little bit. Verse 23, he did not recognize him, for his hands were hairy like those of his brother Esau. So he blessed him. "Are you really my son Esau?" he asked. "I am," he replied. Verse 25, then he said, "My son, bring me some of your game to eat, so that I may give you my blessing." Jacob brought it to him, and he ate, and he brought some wine, and he drank. Then his father Isaac said to him, "Come here, my son, and kiss me." Verse 27, so he went to him and kissed him. When Isaac caught the smell of his clothes, he blessed him and said, okay, so when he caught the smell of Esau on Jacob, that confirmed to Isaac that this is Esau. The voice is Jacob's. The hands felt like Esau, but now he smells like Esau too. So verse 27, so he went to him and kissed him. When Isaac caught the smell of his clothes, he blessed him and said, "Ah, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed. May God give you of heaven's dew and of earth's richness, an abundance of grain and new wine. May nations serve you, and peoples bow down to you. Be lord over your brothers, and may the sons of your mother bow down to you. May those who curse you be cursed, and those who bless you be blessed." I'm going to reread this slowly. This is the blessing that the firstborn was supposed to get, that Jacob is rightfully getting, even though he's not the firstborn. But Isaac had made this deal with him and sold his firstborn for a bowl of soup to his firstborn right, the right of the promises, and that would include inheritance as well. So the blessing goes to Jacob, even though Isaac wanted it to go to Esau. "Ah, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed." Here's the beginning of the blessing. Verse 28, "May God give you heaven's dew, and may God give you of heaven's dew and of earth's richness." Okay, may God give you of heaven's dew and of earth's richness, an abundance of grain and new wine. Okay, so wine, what would that be? Grapes, stuff like that. So an abundance of grain for breads, carbs, and new wine, grapes. or anything that could be made to wine, cherries, things like that. Verse 29, may nations serve you and peoples bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers. So now he's saying to Jacob to be Lord over Esau and any other brothers that may come. And may the sons of your mother bow down to you. So any other brothers that she may have, that he may have, that his mother might have children, any of those, may they bow down to you. May those who curse you be cursed, and those who bless you be blessed. To me, that's the most favorite part of this. Wouldn't that be awesome if those of us, if we had something like that, to where if somebody cursed us, they were actually cursed, and if somebody blessed us, they were actually blessed? I mean, that would be neat. Because a lot of times we want to lash back at people who say something bad about us, but vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. So here Isaac is giving this blessing to his son Jacob, saying, may those who curse you be cursed, and those who bless you be blessed. Verse 30, after Isaac finished blessing him, and Jacob had scarcely left his father's presence, his brother Esau came in from hunting. Oh my gosh, he had scarcely left. I mean, they must have just barely passed each other as Jacob was leaving his dad and Esau was coming in. He too prepared some tasty food and brought it to his father. Then he said to him, my father, sit up and eat some of my game so that you may give me your blessing. Whew. Verse 32, his father Isaac asked him, who are you? I am your son, he answered, your firstborn Esau. Isaac trembled violently and said, who was it then that hunted game and brought it to me? I ate it just before you came, and I blessed him, and indeed he will be blessed. So this was a blessing apparently that you can't reverse, or at least they didn't believe you could reverse. Irrevocable. Okay, and this really upset Isaac because he trembled violently. Verse 34, when Esau heard his father's words, he burst out with a loud and bitter cry and said to his father, bless me too, my father. So he also wanted a blessing now that he realized the firstborn blessing was gone. Verse 35, but he said, your brother came deceitfully and took your blessing. Esau said, isn't he rightly named Jacob? So Jacob must have meant something. It must have meant something negative, like maybe deceiver or something. Because his father just said, your brother came deceitfully and took your blessing, and Esau said, doesn't he have the right name then? Because that's exactly what he did. So Esau said, isn't he rightly named Jacob? He has deceived me these 2 times. He took my birthright, and now he's taken my blessing. Then he said, haven't you reserved any blessing for me? So now whether or not Isaac has heard about this before, he now knows that some kind of deal was made and Jacob was supposed to get the firstborn rights, the birthright, the inheritance that would normally go to the firstborn is to go to Jacob. And Esau says, he took my birthright, and now he's taken my blessing. Well, I would think the two would go hand in hand. Then he asked, haven't you reserved any blessing for me? So he figures that this was a really big blessing that went to his brother, and he wants anything that's left, because he obviously can't bless the same thing to both sons. You can't say to the one son, all your other sons are going to bow down to you or whatever, and then say to this one that's going to happen. That doesn't work. Verse 34, Isaac answered Esau, I have made him lord over you, and have made all his relatives his servants, and I have sustained him with grain and new wine. It's almost as if he had literally given this stuff to his son. He made these blessings, and to them it was as if he actually handed him all this stuff. He was just saying, may the Lord bless you with this and this and this and this, and they believed the Lord absolutely would, so it's as if it actually happened. So he says, I have made him Lord over you. Not just, I asked God to make him Lord over you. I have made all his relatives his servants. Not just, I asked God for this to happen. I have sustained him with grain and new wine. Okay? I mean, it says up here in verse 28, may God give you of heaven's dew and of earth's richness and abundance of grain and new wine. So he's asking God in verse 28, but he's stating it here as if he had given it to him. I have sustained him with grain and new wine. So they really took these blessings absolutely seriously and believed that God would fulfill this promise or this prayer, this request. So what can I possibly do for you, my son? He's saying, I gave him all this stuff. What's left? Verse 38, Esau said to his father, do you have only one blessing, my father? Bless me too, my father. Then Esau wept aloud. Verse 39, his father Isaac answered him, your dwelling will be away from the earth's richness, away from the dew of heaven above. You will live by the sword, and you will serve your brother. But when you grow restless, you will throw his yoke from off your neck. So he gives him not such a great blessing, but what he's really doing is he's saying, this is what's going to happen to you because of what I gave Jacob. So he's giving him the opposite. Instead of you getting the earth's richness and the dew from heaven, you won't get it. Jacob's going to get it all. And he throws in here, you will live by the sword, and you will serve your brother. Well, yeah, he promised Jacob that Esau would be serving him. The interesting part here, though, is he does throw in something else. He says, but when you grow restless, you will throw his yoke from off your neck. So, yeah, maybe he realized that the promise he said, the blessing that he said to Isaac, didn't necessarily have to be forever. It only had to be for a time. Be Lord of your brothers, and may the sons of your mother bow down to you. Doesn't say from generation to generation. So, yeah, this has to occur, but it doesn't have to occur forever. Somehow Isaac realizes this in his old age, and so he makes this blessing to Esau and says, but when you grow restless, you will throw his yoke from off your neck. Okay, verse 31. Esau held a grudge against Jacob because of the blessing his father had given him. He said to himself, the days of mourning for my father are near. Then I will kill my brother Jacob. Okay, so he is very mad at Jacob, and he intends to murder him. When Rebekah was told what her older son Esau had said, she sent for her younger son Jacob and said to him, your brother Esau is consoling himself with the thought of killing you. Now then, my son, do what I say. Flee at once to my brother Laban in Haran. Stay with him for a while until your brother's fury subsides. When your brother is no longer angry with you and forgets what you did to him, I'll send word for you to come back from there. Why should I lose both of you in one day? So she realizes if Esau kills Jacob, Esau will then have to be killed. And so she'll lose both children. So she wants to spare Jacob and says, run to my brother Laban, who lives in Haran. Verse 46, then Rebekah said to Isaac, I am disgusted with living because of these Hittite women. Okay, so Isaac is still alive. He's obviously not doing well because Esau says when the time of mourning is over, I believe that was like something like 30 days after somebody died. So Isaac's not even dead yet, and Esau's already planning the murder of his brother after his father dies and then the time of mourning passes. Rebekah goes to Isaac and says, I'm disgusted with living with these Hittite women. That would be Esau's two wives. So Jacob's gone, Esau's still there, and his two Hittite wives. If Jacob takes a wife from among the women of this land, from Hittite women like these, my life will not be worth living. Okay, let me back up a minute. Jacob didn't leave yet. Rebekah told him to leave. He didn't leave yet. She must have immediately then went to Isaac and tried to formulate a plan in order for Jacob to leave. And this is her plan. Then Rebekah says to Isaac, I'm disgusted with living because of these Hittite women. If Jacob takes a wife from among the women of this land, from Hittite women like these, my life will not be worth living. So she forms her complaint, and in chapter 28 we find out what happens about that. Bye.